Hey there, everybody. Like I showed you yesterday afternoon, when we divide, we don't have to stop with the remainder. We can continue to divide into the decimal digits. And that's what you're going to be working on with your teams at the boards today. So I'm just going to run through a couple of quick examples to refresh your memory about how this works. So here we have 573 divided by 8. We're going to start off just like we did last week. How many 8s go into 5? 0. How many 8s go into 57? Well, that's going to be 7. And 7 times 8 is 56. And when we subtract there, we get 1 left over from this step, but then we bring the 3 down to the next step. Okay, and that's going to make this 13. So now we're thinking, how many 8s go into 13? And the answer is 1. 1 times 8 is 8. And when we subtract, we're going to have a leftover of 5. Now, if we were stopping with the remainder, our answer would be 71 with a remainder of 5. But we're going to keep going here. So remember that if we give ourselves a decimal and put a 0 in the tenths place, now we have another digit that we can drop down. So that 0 comes down. And now the question is, how many 8s are in 50? And the answer is 6. 6 times 8 is 48. And now we get 2, and we can put another 0 up here in the hundredths place, drop it down. And now the question is, how many 8s are in 20? And the answer is 2. 2 times 8 is 16. 20 minus 16 is 4. And now we can give ourselves another 0 out in the thousandths place, drop that 0 down. And the question is, how many 8s go into 40? And the answer is 5. So we put the 5 up here. And 5 times 8 is going to be 40. So now we get down to the point where there's nothing left over, right? And the only thing that we have to make sure of is, so that our answer makes sense, we need to make sure that we put that decimal point here in between the ones place and the tenths place. So we get 71 and 625 thousandths. Okay, well, here's another one. We're going to take 1,949 and divide it by 6. And so we would start with how many 6 goes into 1? 0. How many times does 6 go into 19? 3. 3 times 6 is 18. And we get 1 left over at the end of the step, then we drop down the 4. Okay, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here. Okay, so I got to a remainder of 5, but now I'm going to add a decimal point and put a 0 in the tenths place to give myself some more digits to work with, and I can drop that 0 down. So now I think, how many times does 6 go into 50? And that's going to be 8. Another 0 in the hundredths place. 6 goes into 20 3 times. 3 times 6 is 18. Okay, so at this point now I'm going to think, how many times does 6 go into 20? And that ends up being 3 again, right? And 3 times 6 is 18 again. And when we subtract, we get 2 again. And when we add another 0 and drop it down, the same thing starts happening over and over and over again, right? So we've hit a point where we can see that no matter how long we keep doing this, those 3's are just going to keep repeating over and over and over again. So when we write our answer, we're going to make sure that we put a decimal point here. But the other thing that we can do now to show that this 3 continues on forever and ever is when we write the quotient, or the answer here, we can write 324.83 and just put a bar over the top of the 3 like that to show that that continues to repeat forever. So when we divide out into the decimal places, there are 2 possible things that can happen. We can either end up with what's called the terminating decimal, and that's one that just stops with no remainder at some point, or we can end up with a repeating decimal, and that's one that just keeps going and going and going forever and ever and ever. Today, as you work at the boards, you're going to be practicing this, right? You're going to be dividing out into the decimal digits until either there's no remainder or until the decimal begins to repeat and go on forever and ever and ever. As you work, make sure that you continue to take turns. Every time you start a new step of the division process, hand the marker off to somebody new. Use the grid today to help keep all of the place values lined up and everything like that. Remember that your goal is to be able to do this and understand how to do it on your own, okay? So there'll be a time a little bit later on today in class where you're gonna actually have the opportunity to check your understanding as an individual, so you're ready to rock and roll with this kind of division on Thursday this week when you take the quiz. All right, have a great day. See you later. Bye-bye.